Mr. Spock with the crew of the Enterprise set out on new adventure to the furthest part of the skies.
Bridge to sickbay. Emergency.
Spock has contracted the disease. It's fatal to Vulcans.
Are you sure?
If we don't have that drug in 20 hours, he'll die.
What would these drugs be worth to you if we had them?
We require you to submit to search as per Babel Resolution A12. Reply.
We have no Federation cargo aboard.
Bones, how much time?
Less than an hour, Jim.
Spock doesn't have a chance.
Add the Stooping Panther and the Addams Family. Together with the Jetsons, then there's no doubt you'll agree. It's the Saturday celebration starting tomorrow on NBC.
That's so good. Hi guys, welcome. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Sohail, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. And today you're meeting my synth version. It's because I don't feel too good. I'm I'm broadcasting from bed, and I have a puffy face and a sore throat. So I thought, let me give this expensive hardware like a run for its money and see if I can use it to generate a likeness of me. And so far, it's creeped everyone out. But
You're like
It looks like your head is out of the holodeck and it's just disappearing.
You're like in Batman and Robin in 1997 when Alfred was like, "I'm sick and gonna die, but I scanned my brain into the Bat computer for my niece who's gonna become Batgirl."
Oh my god!
Like, suit me up, Uncle Alfred.
Oh God, you're gonna give me trauma with that. Don't do that.
But I'm lucky to be
Alicia
joined by.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to be joined by some real life looking faces here today. Thanks for coming on and indulging me, guys. This is the last time I'll try to do this.
Well, if you rescan it like you were talking about, that might actually.
Yeah, I might actually do that with like a uniform and maybe I'll
And take
like,
the hat
do my
off
be-
too before you scan
do
yourself.
my best Star Trek. Jean-Luc Picard look, or wear like see if they have like fake hair or something like that I could add onto it or something like that. But
See if they can give you the Captain Pike hair from Strange New Worlds.
Oh, this is a great idea. Oh, good idea. Well, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the Pirates of. Well, how do they say
Orion?
Orion. Right off the bat? What's the deal with that? I tried to look it up, but I couldn't.
No one knows. Literally, the guy who wrote it is supposed to be Orion, but he's just like, I have no clue why it came out, and we're just like, what? Why is that? And nobody ever explained it to him, and nobody ever answered our question. So the people who like the writers and illustrators don't know because they weren't directing the voice actors. Our theory is that someone on the show mispronounced it once and they didn't want to re-record everything, so they made the other people say Orion as well.
It was Shatner. It had to.
Yeah, well,
it was William Shatner.
Yeah.
It was probably either Shatner or Nimoy, and being that like Shatner sometimes says things oddly, I think.
Well, and
more
even
likely
he says sabotage in here, but he also says sabotage. He says it a little bit oddly.
He says it like a halfway version of like sabotage.
He has multiple strange ways to pronounce things.
Jill's Shatner, remember how to say sabotage properly again. The Orion. So yeah, the Orion. So it is the same. They're the Orions, basically.
Yes.
These are Orions.
And if you notice that all these elements have been pulled into lower decks too. So.
Yeah, 100%. So that was exciting.
There's also, strange cases of Next Generation referring to the Bajorans as the Bajora.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Jean-Luc says that's right.
Ignore that one. That's kind of the
The
same
Bajora. And then there's the whole thing with Trills looking like they did in TNG versus like how they look.
But even the Cardassians are a little bit more like beefy and kind of, I don't know. Their outfits were slightly different.
Yeah, they had those weird headsets before in
Yeah.
TNG.
You know,
Like,
speaking of those, the Orions or Orions in this episode, they kind of have some weird military garb. It kind of reminds me of that Cardassian style when we first see the Cardassians in The Wounded, when they had like those weird helmets and stuff.
right, that's right. That's true. Well, so what did everyone think of this episode? Why don't we start with you, Marcel, since you're joining us after a while? Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, no problem. I always enjoy being invited back and talking to Star Trek with you. I thought it was really cool. I thought that the writers did a really good job at making this episode centered around Spock, and I really liked the way that Captain Kirk was sort of forceful with these pirates or whatever the hell they were, to get the cure that he needed for Spock. But I really, really like that. I really like the voice acting in this episode by William Shatner. I thought it was better than it usually is in the show. Although the recording of the time, I guess, for most episodes that I've seen, he's come off as just really flat, and the lines have been to me like he could have put a little bit more effort into it, but not in this episode. In this episode, his line readings just worked for me, and I got really enthralled with the situation. So all in all, I thought this was a good episode.
Right on. What about you, Father? What'd you think?
Season 2 of the animated series, I think like these 6 episodes aren't quite as good as the first 16 in general, and overall though, I really enjoy them taking a lot of stuff from Journey to Babel for this. And like when they reference, like the Corridon incident and stuff like that. It's funny, watching this now with like all the other Orion stuff that we've gotten in Star Trek. They've reused a lot of the stuff, like the ship design, but it's funny how like within this episode there's so much like focused on what we got in Journey to Babel, and the whole idea of like, oh, the Orions were like trying to be like a neutral power and like maintain like their neutrality in that episode, so we're gonna kind of make that like their whole thing here. We're like, they're willing to die to maintain like as long as like the official record still indicates they're neutral. They're like that dedicated to being neutral. That's kind of like a interesting idea, and seems like a little bit I don't know, doesn't quite match up with the Orions that I guess the franchise kind of decides that it wants to depict later with Enterprise and Discovery and stuff. But I still like it. I still like watching it here. And as part of that, we kind of thought about like Klingons and Romulans differently, like back in the 70s also. So it's just kind of like that early kind of like that TOS era, when like TOS was all it was, and people just had to build everything based on what was in the original 3 seasons of the show. So it does kind of very much feel like a relic of that era, but it's still very much an enjoyable watch for me.
Very cool, Aaron.
Yeah, really quick to that point. If you watch those old scientists, those Orions actually do feel like they kind of connect to this. They have like, they bargained for what they wanted to get, and there was, there's just that sort of feeling to me going back and forth. But no, I really enjoyed this. It's, I think for a season opener, it was good. It's the first thing that actually felt like maybe it was trying to be a season opener as opposed to just an episode. One of the youngest writers in Star Trek, he was like 18 at the time. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I liked, we get a lot of Spock and McCoy back and forth, and there, it just feels like an actual episode, but shrunk down. This was the first one that didn't really feel like it needed to be animated to me. It could have been anything.
Yeah.
Or any live action, I mean.
Yeah, I agree. I really like this episode too. I like the someone pointed out in the audience, I think it was who was it? I think it was Joel, about Bones showing concern and like the dynamic of the 3, and like the cool thing about Spock like tuning out and conserving energy. Captain O'Shea is kind of awesome. Like I kind of wanted to know more about
We had to
him
create for Star Trek Adventures. I had to actually had to pull something out, like create a personality for him out of that thing that we saw, which was challenging. It was fun.
Yeah, and it sounds like a different new person voicing. I didn't recognize. I don't know. I didn't have a chance to look at the credits. I got to go pull it up or something. But it sounded like someone different, or like they were, or whoever was doing the voicing was doing it different than usual. It
From
was
what I
very
remember,
cool.
we couldn't actually get confirmed
Yeah, I think it's one of
voice actors.
the
Oh, it's a
unconfirmed
lost one
ones.
of the lost
Yeah.
ones. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, well, still, you could tell like that's a neat thing. I mean, definitely you heard
Yeah,
Majel
voiced
Barrett.
unknown, Captain Shoshay,
Okay.
Orion Captain, Orion First Officer, Orion Ensign, and Transporter Crewman. All of those have different voices that we don't know where they came from.
Captain O'Shea, if you're out there and you're still alive and you're listening to this
Yeah.
by some weird chance, let us know as we could break that news. Who played Captain O'Shea?
I think the Orion Captain actually sounds an awful lot like Lou Scheimer. So I'm wondering if that was actually the same, because he has done that before.
Yeah,
Very cool.
he does some voice work in Albatross, like a couple episodes after this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like what you guys were talking about the Orions and the way they interplay and like the idea of like us winning in some way, like gaining the upper hand in some way. That was interesting, and the whole idea of like neutrality being important. So yeah, lots of good stuff, and it's a very meaty and really good episode.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's why I think that clip was. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's why I think that clip. Why I gave it to you in the beginning. It's just so funny to see Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, then contrasted by this like Spock's gonna die. You aren't, there's a Babel conference resolution. Like, kids love politics.
It's so absurd.
Yeah, and then it just goes into like the singing about the Addams Family and the Jetsons. So it's just like you can see how like it was such a weird tonal shift in that point.
Yeah,
right.
It's
No,
so
it's
cool
true.
that Spock is finally like he's the one who's sick. He's always
Yeah,
like, immune
I actually
to
wrote that down.
everything. There is I was watching some episode one time. I don't know, it might have been an animated series episode, but my partner at the time like came in the room and just caught like half of the episode and was like, "Oh, is Spock immune to what's going on?" I was like, "Yeah, Spock is always immune." So here it's cool to like kind of flip it on its head. Yeah.
I did like why can't you have red-blooded have red blood like any normal human? It's like it's not a human. It's like
I don't remember.
That's really racist. That's like that'd be like if a doctor was like, "Why do you have to be like genetically susceptible to sickle cell? Damn it! Like,
yeah.
If only you didn't have those damn genes, I'd be able to treat you a lot more easily."
but that's that's Bones. He's like he's very, and he's very he's very harsh towards Spock in various instances. So that's Bones to me. So that didn't come off as racist at all. I guess it's just something that Bones would say.
Well, I mean, I don't believe Dr. McCoy is actually racist, but he does like to use a lot of antiquated tropes and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, but who knows? Maybe he like this has been like a debate we've had on Starfleet Sohail. I personally don't think he is, but there's a lot of good evidence that Dr. McCoy is either ignorantly
And Spock
racist
is
or
too.
Spock
is a
too.
Vulcan supremacist.
Yeah.
He's always
Supremacy's
like,
a bit
"Oh
of
my god, all of you people are so puny compared to me. You're so stupid and so weak."
It's true.
He says it in more like colorful words because he's
What did you guys think of the design? Speaking of Joel, this cargo ship, what did you guys think of the design of the ship? I loved it.
It looks like a version of the Antares, or like a riff off of that.
Yeah, you definitely like you see it and you're like, "Oh, I know exactly what fleet that is. That is a Star Trek ship. More specifically, that is some type of Federation or Starfleet ship."
Did Eagle Moss ever do one of this? I don't know if they ever did the
No.
animated. They didn't do
No.
an animated series, right?
They did. No, they did
the
Antares. They did that because that also appeared in the remastered TOS.
Yeah, because there was a everything Eagle Moss did, not to like make them sound like half-ass or anything, but they just 3D printed the actual existing CGI models that like ILM or whoever developed for whatever show, and Star Trek had basically already done. That's why it took them so long to do a couple of the ships, because some of those models, speaking of like when we lose voice actors, some of the models were actually like lost. Like someone working on the special effects on Nemesis lost the Scimitar, the Freeman ship at the end. So
holy crap.
It has an
It's
interesting
that is
registry number too, NCC F1913. So it's like a freighter, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah, that must be it. That's cool. I love the little tiny nacelles, or I don't know if that's a perspective thing, but they look like it had smaller nacelles in the front, and then the standard size nacelles in the back, or something.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not sure
know
what those
You wanna
are.
put it
Yeah.
on screen?
Oh, you got it up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hold on, let
That'd
me
be good.
see here. There it is. There
Yeah.
she is. Yeah, she's a cool
Yeah, they
ship.
do sort of look like little nacelles, don't they?
Now
Is
that
that
I'm
the
looking,
cargo bay in the back? I guess
I guess, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's got a kind of a.
It could be like detachable, like that part in the front. That has
Yeah,
the
that's what I
twin
was thinking.
nacelles.
I would have liked to
It's
have
like
seen
warp
it.
3 or something.
Yeah, exactly. But it is a really cool design for like a freighter type, cargo vessel. It's very cool. It does look like it's meant to just like run, like for long periods of time, like through space and stuff. It's pretty
That
cool.
was
And it
the
also
idea with
looks
the
like
Stargazer being 4 nacelles. Was the thinking with that was that if it was going to be more like long distance exploration further away, it would be on these longer voyages, and you would have 2 pairs of nacelles so that you could rest 2 of them while you were using the other 2 and kind of alternate back and forth on your long trips.
right. This also looks like it could like plug into a different like a cargo container or something like that underneath, kind of the way they did with the live action version of the Antares on that new fan film, the Idaho, not the Idaho, the what was it called? I can't remember the whatever. It was the name of a state, I think. The Indiana, that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but it's kind of cool because they have this section is sort of just there's one part on either end, and it almost looks like the 24th century or 23rd century version of cargo containers.
I like this scrolling through the episode because it's reminding me of all the good scenes in it. But so they had to get. I like also that Spock was like more concerned about. He's like very consistently concerned about like, are we gonna get to Deneb 5 in time and like all this.
That was
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, it was like nice.
That line reminded me a little bit of the. It's like, does anybody remember when we were explorers? Like, hey, we actually get to do this for a change.
Deneb
But
5,
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
Deneb planet going back
Yeah,
to
Spock.
where no man
Spock
has gone
seems
before.
like Spock seems like really concerned with procedure in this episode, and
always
that might
like
be
whenever he doesn't want any attention to his illness and
right.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's like
that might be that might be him subconsciously thinking, oh, I'm fine, nothing is gonna happen. Next thing you know, 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, boof, passed out on the bridge.
It's self-denial.
right, self-denial. There we go,
It is-
self-denial, exactly.
it is also a cool kind of reference to in a weird way in my mind to what's it called darn it, why can't I sorry, brain fog from being sick. Also, I'm digital now, so I'm like max headroom. It's like I have to access information. But War of the Worlds, thank you. Like how like a human disease that's like harmless could affect aliens in a fatal way. I like that. And the strobulin that they had to retrieve, I was part of a role-playing game where strobulin was a big deal in the in the thing. So I kept thinking about strobulin, yeah, which was kind of cool. So I was like, oh, that's where the DM got that that idea from. Shout out to Brian.
I got to read a couple of the alternate versions of the ending, basically with stuff that he had also pitched, and there was an ending that was kind of interesting, where basically it ended up using transporters or something to get them the medicine, as opposed to what they did going onto the planet. But basically, it beams on onto the transporter pad, and then it's sort of like running a football, basically, to get it into the sick bay as fast as they could, which I thought was kind of a cool idea, but maybe it just wouldn't translate as well in cartoon mode.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. I like this first
They're
mate
actually in the book too. You can see them. It's
cool.
kind of funny is that you can tell that he was a young person because this is typed on college ruled paper, which is kind of funny.
Oh, hold on. With my eyes, I can't. Hold on. This is so weird. There we go. Can you show it again? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if
there
we
we
can
go.
focus in.
Oh, it's really good at tracking your face. There we go. It's
Okay.
cool.
Oh wow.
so you can kind of see.
Oh, I didn't.
Very
Yeah.
I didn't know that the script was written by an 18-year-old. Okay.
Yep. And he watched it like in his college dorm room when it came out.
Okay. Cool. Good for him.
But I like that first mate when he was like, "Oh yeah, we can't outrun the Enterprise and we can't we can't destroy it." So you're saying basically, take Kirk's deal or like, but then they're
Oh,
still
yeah.
suspicious of him, which is funny.
Devana Tindy's family in Lower Decks, they might have this kind of sideways lightning bolt thing as their logo that one of these Orion dudes has on his chest in this episode, because that we saw that on her cousin's like apron when he was working as a blacksmith on the anvil.
It was in that episode too.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. I really like that episode.
They
man.
also
I think
her family also has the same type of ship as these guys, the same design, that kind of insect bug.
That reminds me of that cool feature you guys did for Drawn to Trek on TikTok for that episode.
Oh,
where
yeah.
you related it back to this episode. That was pretty cool.
If you look at, it was the what is it? Lower Decks, where they were destroying all the ships. One of the ships was an Orion ship, and externally it didn't look 100% like this, but internally it had that same chair and everything. It's a very similar interior design, which is kind of cool. And then later we actually had at the end, the very last episode, I believe, when basically Devana goes back to Orion, is in one of these kind of ships, but like a modern 24th century version.
I like this. It is very alien to willing to die for your neutrality. Yet we're pirates.
And it's suicide on Saturday morning cartoons.
Lovely suicide.
Another thing. There's so many weird things in this. It's like everything. All they needed to do is have this would have been the episode with Ichaya. That could have been everything. It's a terrible episode.
Lesson of the day.
That was really smart of Scotty to catch that it was a dilithium bomb and then beam the dilithium out of the bomb. So that was a cool scene as well. And of course, I didn't realize, but it's kind of cool that the two environmental fields would merge together if you're fighting.
I think that's probably because it was easier to draw that way.
Right, exactly, right.
Life belt fight.
It is funny that the Orion, like, the whole time they didn't actually appeal to the Orion's like empathy, like to say like one of our crew members is dying, I need this like really badly. I thought that was interesting.
They probably wouldn't think that it would have worked anyway.
Yeah, it's probably
exactly
true.
It's not going to work. So I mean, the best thing you can do with the Orions is negotiate with them and negotiate with them to the point to the point that you sort of get what you want, and then sort of like take it from them, but in a nice way.
It's like Diplomats. Diplomath, is that was the name of the game?
Yeah.
I know.
Lower Decks.
Compromise or whatever.
No.
Oh, what was it called? It wasn't called Diplomats. It was called I forget what it was. Yeah, but the compromise.
Diplomath. Like
oh, maybe.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say here is you should be as diplomatic as possible until you can't be anymore. So
that's very good, Marcelo, upholding the Federation values there. I like that.
Yeah, I figure I'd do that. I mean, I usually just throw them in the brain, either throw them in the brain or you know me, so.
That's a good call. This is a good observation. The Orion captain is really big, kind of like the Orion males in Enterprise.
The Enterprise Orions were all like, they would hire wrestlers. They would get like Big Sky to play Big Show. It was Big Show, and Big Sky played Sabretooth in the X-Men movies.
Yeah. There's a guy named Big Sky, and then another guy named Big Show.
Yeah,
that's that's funny. I like that you know who they are too.
It's Diplomath. You're right. Diplomath.
Yeah, it's like the point of the game is nobody gets exactly what they want.
The masks are pretty cool. I like their whole like space suits are pretty cool. The Orions.
Yeah, I just wish that their skin was a bit more green and not the. I don't know, it's kind
Yeah.
of like the blue color on my shirt that I was complaining about earlier before the show that my green screen doesn't like to play with. They're kind of like that turquoise color, but
It's
I
like
just
the
assumed
Orions and the Andorians were not colored quite right in the animated series. Although Andorians kind of got retconned into
Yeah.
being part Anar.
But we've seen
Oh,
a little
right.
bit of like on Lower Decks, I guess, is the only place that's done it so far. But there will be Orions on screen at the same time, and they're like different tints or different shades
That's
of
true.
green. So yeah, I guess they're just just like on Earth, how our skin comes in a variety of flavors. I guess just Orion is the same. Maybe like if you're like a turquoise one, then you're an Orion.
Oh, maybe.
It just
Would you
translates-
see
They
the
have a slightly
different
different
shades
language. It just translates a little bit different on the universal translator.
in that season finale of Lower Decks this season? We did see like different shaded kind of skin tones
Yeah.
of Orions too, so that was cool.
Yeah, even before that, when they showed the guy on DS9, he was a very different color from Tindy when they were on screen together, and they might have even done that in season 1 when they showed the holodeck depiction of Orion, which that was the first time we ever saw Orion in anything. We hear it mentioned. That was cool if you go back in time and see it in its glory days, like in yesteryear. But
Yeah.
yeah, Lower Decks was the first show to show us Orion, and they showed it a couple of times so far, and we're seeing it again next season.
Yeah.
It appears so.
It's
the
really
Orion
cool that they're
show.
focused on the Orions. Yeah,
Well,
I
that's
agree.
one of the things I was hoping with Lower Decks is I was like, hey, we have an Orion as one of the regular casts on the show. I want to get a ton of Orion stuff and really flesh
Yeah.
out those people, and so kudos to them for delivering on it. But yeah, before that, we just had a few little gems like Pirates of Orion. Not much else to go off of.
I want to see them go to the Cation homeworld too, to Kate.
Yeah, that would.
Oh,
be
is it just called Kate? I didn't realize that.
Kait, yeah, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I would really, I mean, I know it's called Lower Decks, but I would really love an episode or two just sort of like, sneakily focused on the senior crew, for example, because I would love to see.
I feel like they're doing a lot of that, at least this latest season and especially with the gang getting promoted to lieutenants. But we're not here to talk about Lower Decks. I'm sorry, I went off. I went off on that. But I think it secretly is going to become like the decks.
Right, the decks, yeah.
The decks.
The
the
decks.
No, I mean, I just, I just want more. I just want more cat. I just want more cat in a coat. So that's me.
Well, since they're related to Kazinti, that actually might be something kind of fun too that they could pull in because we've got Ensign Taylor and
Yeah, if Star Trek was ever going to connect those dots like on screen, Lower Decks would be the place it would make the most sense. It'd be the easiest place to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
How long do Cations live? Because could Emrys still be around?
No,
Emrys?
I think they have a pretty normal,
Lifespan?
human-ish type lifestyle. Yeah,
The more I stare at him, I'm gonna make.
we don't really know for sure, but I mean, it hasn't been brought up, but they haven't said that they're long-lived. And in those little bios that we got of Maress and Eric's, they mentioned Eric's people are long-lived, but they don't say anything about Maress. So,
Gotcha. It's Maress. I keep saying Emrys for some reason. I don't know why.
I did too. I say it both ways now. I think when I was a kid, I thought because I saw it printed once, I was like, oh, it's Emress. I like, but everyone's like, no, it's Maress. I'm like, oh, all right.
Cations and Kazinti, do they both love to eat Beta Zeds? That's funny. The more I stare at him, that first mate's kind of hot. I might have to make him my episode husband. He's like kind of buff. He's kind of goofy looking.
He's kind of goofy looking.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I know I'm like a sucker for.
He's got like
looking.
Gilligan's Island, like a Gilligan's hat.
Yeah,
almost.
he does have that. It's true.
Skipper.
Gilligan's hat. It's funny.
Eric's is proof of Picard in that new Starfleet Academy comic. Oh, he's a professor of Picard.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Very cool. Oh,
He
I
also
forgot to say.
taught Chekhov.
Oh, that's rad. This is such a cool shot, and I love the background art with the asteroids.
Very
The
cool shot.
cereal.
Yeah.
It looks like
Captain
it looks like that. Thank you, Captain Crunch, or like
It does
Good
actually look
for-
now.
like Cocoa
Well, okay,
Puffs or
now I
something
know.
like that.
Now I
Yeah,
see
Cocoa
that.
Puffs.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
now I
Cocoa
see
Puffs,
that.
Yeah,
It's good
That's
for a
good fun.
Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
yeah.
They could have had, like,
me and
a-
Sohel had a Saturday morning cartoon watch of this morning.
While I was
in the
cuddling
Text
with
Rec
my
Discord
cat.
server.
Yeah, Arthur watched it too. That was really fun, by the way. If you guys to do a little plug here, if you guys join the Text Trek Discord server. Wait, is that a Patreon exclusive
No,
or
anyone anyone can access that.
Yeah, so you can go and watch, and it's cool because the chat's open, but you mute the audio, so that's good. You could just watch, which is I like it, and you don't just watch Star Trek. It's kind of like you'll randomly go on. It's whatever. That's the channel on Discord where watch with Fathery, right?
That's basically whenever I'm like sitting at my computer watching something, I will stream it in there.
I really like that.
This is also an episode where McCoy says God, which is interesting because there was some sort of mention about you can't say God in Discovery or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, and they've never ever said it in Star Trek, and like, yeah, they did. It's like, here it is.
Kirsten Byers didn't want Jason Isaacs to say "Thank God." I think.
Oh, right.
In season 1.
Yeah.
And then they asked if they would reshoot it again, and Jason Isaacs said, "Well, it's not my money we're wasting, so let's do it again."
Let's do it again. Let's roll it again.
It's not my money we're wasting. That's really funny. That's pretty funny.
He's right. It isn't.
Yep. He gets
But
paid
yeah.
either way.
Yep.
He might
So,
get paid more. He might be like, "I might get some overtime tonight."
Yeah, that's true.
The other thing where they got the strobilin from was the planet Beta Canopus, and that's a personal thing for me because Canopus in Persian is Sohail, so the same star system. So yeah, Beta Canopus in Persian would be Beta Sohail. So I am Canopus.
Are you Alpha
guys...
Sohail then?
I guess I must be Alpha Sohail.
Oh yeah, because whenever they say that means there's 2 stars, where one's in the Alpha Quadrant, one's in the Beta Quadrant, right? We use that to explain why there's so many Rigel planets. We had to invent
Oh, is it?
Beta Rigel.
Oh, okay.
I thought Beta Canopus would be the second system in the Canopus star system, like how Orion, the constellation of Orion, has 3 stars. So I always thought it would be like Alpha, Beta, Theta, or maybe it could
Beta
be.
Canopus is an inhabited planet, which
there
which
you
a
go.
naturally occurring drug on the strobilin, blah blah blah. Found on only a few habitable planets in the Milky Way galaxy. It's all pretty much just about that. But yeah, it looks like it's a planet in the
planet. That's
system.
like
But isn't
SETI Alpha.
Canopus-
There's like SETI Alpha, and then there's SETI Alpha, and there's several numbers of planets. So it's weird that they just Beta Canopus is just the one planet instead of like
Canopus
Beta
is the
1.
brightest star in the southern constellation of Carina,
Yeah,
and the second brightest star in the night sky.
yeah. They use it to navigate by NASA, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's right. It all comes back to Sohail, guys.
Well, it's kind of cool though. And actually, that's a fun thing to pull out.
There's another cool shot of the cargo ship, the
Huron.
freighter. Yeah, the
There's
Huron.
also
Thank you.
a Potemkin mentioned. The strobilin went from the Potemkin
Yeah.
to the Huron.
We just didn't see
nice.
it.
The Orion.
They did like a run. It's very cool, like to get it there as fast as possible. I love the logistics of that too, like that there's logistics behind
Yeah,
it.
you feel like
Yeah.
there's like a real universe, a real society. It
Yeah.
fleshes stuff out.
It was weird though when they like, oh, how about this idea of doing that? And he's like, Uhura, get me Starfleet Lieutenant on the horn or whatever. It's like, Starfleet Lieutenant? What is that? You know, it's just like just any lieutenant somewhere. It was an odd phrase.
The main lieutenant of Starfleet.
Yes.
It's like yeah, that
I
is
feel
a
like
good
it should have
point.
been something else, and they just didn't say it right or something.
I'll be right back, guys. I just gotta step away for a moment.
Sure thing, Marcel. Jill says, I very much believe that people hundreds of years ago would still use old expressions with religious origin. Non-Christians even say Jesus when exasperated sometimes. That's a really good point. That's true.
I'm sure there are a lot of things that we say now that aren't connected to whatever it was originally. I mean, okay even is like basically something that was, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something British where it was used as a basically a thumb their nose at the hierarchy or something like that.
Oh, really? I didn't
I
realize
think
that.
so. Let me see.
It's
I'm
weird.
gonna look that up while you.
It's weird the language that makes it to the 24th or 23rd century and the language that doesn't. Like in TNG in the neutral zone, when Data was like, oh, this woman from the 1990s, she was occupation, it says homemaker. I guess that was some type of construction work. I don't know what a homemaker means. It's like that's like a basic terminology word like that doesn't exist in the 24th century. But then like sometimes they'll have like a lot of real modern day lingo. So it's become quite inconsistent. How do people talk in the future in Star Trek?
That's
Okay,
kind of
it's
happening.
actually Boston. I was wrong.
Oh, okay. That kind of happens like to language, like even within my lifetime, I've seen the word, like for example, the word drip. Now, like how people refer to drip as your clothing or your fit or whatever, you know? So it's like weird how things kind of like come back and forth throughout time. Like
So
things
okay
take
originated
prominence or
around
different meanings and stuff like that. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
it originated around Boston as part of a fad for the abbreviation using misspellings in the late 1830s. Originally stood for All Correct, OLLKRKORRECT. So instead of all correct, and that's why that okay came from that. So it was a misspelling that was like basically. It sounds to me it's like something that kids would have done to drive adults crazy. You know, we're
I
gonna
love
spell this
that.
name, or like, oh, that's sick. You know, like, oh, it's
Right.
sick. That's bad. No, it's not bad. It's good.
I'd say, you know what? They should in Star Trek. They should start having like alien races speak alien language, and they use the word okay. It's an infectious word. Like it's a word that like any language that like hears the word okay, they factor that word into their language.
Yeah, I like
It's
that.
a very okay word, you know.
I remember watching the 1990 version of Dark Shadows, and the girl who the woman went back in time somehow, and she's like in the 1800s, and she's the nanny for these kids, and she's like, okay, kids, come on. Okay, like nobody knew what it was, which I thought was like, oh, that's weird. I never thought that nobody would know what okay means. They also found the back of her shirt with a label that says machine wash or whatever. And and she's like, this is some sort of evil incantation. Machine wash, dryer. like it's like as if it's like some evil thing, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
these
pretty
weird-ass-
funny.
I mean, like
Yeah.
if we just went back in time 20 years ago, a lot of the stuff that we say today wouldn't make any sense.
Google it. Like what?
It's true.
Well, okay, maybe then, but
That'll persevere probably, but
But Google
it'll
it.
mean
Marcelo
different.
was talking about. He's telling us he's watching Buffy on his other channel. But that's actually a joke in Buffy. Like a character says, "Why don't you Google her?" And then another character is like, "Oh my God, she's like 15." But like the word Google was new. Like
That is funny, yeah.
That's funny.
By the way, I do say groovy, and I also do say right on. It's true.
Well, even cool. That seems like that's a generic word that just kind of it became. It's not even it's slang, but it's like acceptable for every age group and generation. I remember in the 80s though, if you said cool, it was drifting towards like, oh, that's like your parents would say that.
Right.
But now it's just kind of generic, it feels like.
And there were like, I feel like a lot more, like there were subcultures like in California, like the word rad or hella
there
or
was kind
things
of
like that.
there was a push to get away from cool. Yeah, there was like or bad, like things were like bad, but it meant good, or tight. But then we like circled back to cool.
There's an interesting line in here for when McCoy is talking. It's like, McCoy says, "This won't hurt a bit, Spock." And Spock says, "An unnecessary assurance, Doctor, in addition to being untrue," which reminded me very much of in Star Trek Beyond, where McCoy is like, like, sit down over here. It's like, okay, take it easy and just relax. It's like, you're going to be okay. And it's like the forced optimism in your voice suggests that you are eliciting a sense of calm in order to, cut the horse shit. It's like,
Yeah.
I fail to see
it's
how
very
it's criminal,
similar.
but it's got that kind of a beat to it. Like they're similar personalities.
The banter
Very
is
nice.
good. There's some good banter in here. When McCoy is like, "Why do I even waste my bedside manner on you? I'm not no more of that." And then Spock's like, "Yeah, I'll appreciate such restraint if you." I was like, "Yeah, that is like classic. That is classic Spock and McCoy."
The very end when they make some sort of jab at each other, but then there's this pause, and then McCoy goes, "Ha ha ha ha!" He just has this weird laugh. It's just like, okay, that's completely out of.
Yeah,
it's like it was just like they took another laugh from somewhere else and just dropped it into the end.
They probably did. That might have been what happened.
But yeah, the whole idea of like all unsuccessful missions end in suicide. And it was interesting. I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah, we hadn't quite figured out exactly what the franchise wanted to do with Orions just yet.
Yeah,
but
that felt a little bit Romulan-ish in some ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. The whole idea of like, other species, like, well, even there's some cultures that just have a different value on death, on Earth right now. So it's cool to see different values of death also reflected among other species. So yeah.
It's kind of like last week in the Jihad when we talked about the score, how they feel very Vulcan. I mean, as Klingon.
Mm-hmm. Klingon, right? Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So it's kind of interesting that how these races have also changed over time in the franchise.
Yeah, 100%. Very
and
cool.
Of course, then you jump way ahead to Discovery in the future. Then I'm sure that changes it even more.
All in all, I think it's great that we get so much, so many different facets of Orions over the years, and it all kind of started, back here first, our first glimpse of them in the cage, and then,
Isn't
after
this
that,
the first real Orion that we ever see? Because the one that was in the wasn't. Wait, am I thinking?
What's her name? Batgirl from the '60s. Yvonne
Oh.
Craig.
Yeah.
She's real.
But wasn't that I thought that was
it was like an illusion, but it was a memory.
Yeah.
I think it was
a memory.
from a memory.
Well, no, you're thinking of the menagerie in the cage, where when Susan Oliver was painted green.
Oh, that's what I was thinking about.
That was Pike's dream. But there is a real Orion who was imprisoned in whom gods destroy with Garth Eisler.
Well,
played by Yvonne Craig.
Who at the Babel conference? Who was pretending to be some other race? I'm trying to remember.
That was the Andorian.
The Andorian
and Orion in disguise as an Andorian.
That's right.
Okay.
So
the first time we saw a real Andorian might have actually been in TAS. I don't know.
Yeah, or because I guess like that Andorian-looking dude with a fake antenna was actually an Orion.
Right.
A blue Orion. Now
yeah, maybe. Hey, maybe that's why because we had, they might have.
Well, there's other Andorians in the original series, though. There's an Andorian in whom gods destroy, and
right.
There is one in that base with the Tellarite.
It's weird because I seem to remember something related to that in our book somewhere. Now I don't remember, but I thought it was in this episode. But yeah, the light skin tone, which is interesting. We saw some of their production. I have a folder of like stuff that they used as resources to draw the tricorders and all this stuff. There's a picture of an Orion that looks more like that skin color than it does the actual skin color on the show. And I'm wondering, they didn't have a ton of resources, so maybe that's what they grabbed.
Oh, so hell, you'll like this. You like the comic book artist Todd McFarlane, right? Have you ever seen the Orions that he drew for DC in the 80s?
No.
Can
you pull that out?
Yeah. Let me find that.
That would be really cool to see.
But they're very much here it is.
We'll put it back up on screen.
They have the same kind of outfit.
Let me find like a better picture of it.
Oh, you put it in the private chat? Hang on, let me.
I found one
No.
too. Let's see.
Well,
Let's see.
I'm doing dead air, which you're not supposed to do. Sorry, audience.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. We're all
In the,
looking. There we go.
I put it in the chat, in the private chat. Oh,
Oh, you
there it is.
did?
That picture. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But see, they're wearing the same kind of outfit, just orange.
Yeah. Oh, that's rad.
Actually, the Orion on the left, like under the banner, he looks kind of almost like Darkseid or
Or
you know,
Thanos.
Thanos,
yeah.
yeah. That's very cool. Let me pull up the one you sent. Let's see.
It's the same thing. Sorry.
Is that
That ship is interesting. That's to the right of Thanos. It's got like the top and bottom have the whatchamacallit, the nacelles.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know
Able
if I've
to
ever seen
zoom
anything
in.
like that. There's one that's here. I'll send you the link. Copy
Okay.
image link. There we go. This is a zoom.
Maybe
in
Father
of
could
that
pull it
ship.
up.
I've got it.
Very cool.
But yeah, so that is really interesting. Do you remember how long his run was for that?
That was actually for just like a, I don't know, like a backup page or something, or like here's like some like Orion trivia or something. He wasn't ever a series regular artist on.
Oh, okay. There's one of the people who is in the USS Surak who has eyeglasses. That's interesting.
There's a good look at it. But yeah, I mean, before
really
Enterprise, cool. Like no one really like showed the Orions in anything canonical. After this, there is a long. This is the last look at a Orion on screen until Star Trek Enterprise season 5. Until
didn't we see one briefly, like in the backgrounds in something in TNG? I thought it was like in a cafe or something in the background that was supposed to be an Orion.
They do that with Endorians.
Okay.
There's an Endorian sitting at a table in Captain's Holiday.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Everyone complained about it. It's not a good-looking Endorian.
No.
They also showed that Endorian again on the holodeck in.
With the really weird kind of like really long kind of lobster antenna. I call it right.
They were kind
That's
of.
One with.
They were kind of green. They were kind of off color there. Speaking of like, Endorians and Orions being the wrong color.
Is that the stuff for Lal to choose when she was like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame her for rejecting that film. No one wanted to look like that.
But this is, I think this could be, I think they gave it a lot of background, which is nice that it didn't feel like an empty episode. It feels like something that could be built on it. They have in Lower Decks. So, in fact, here I'll send a link to the Lower Decks ship. You can show what that looks like. Copy image address there. Okay, so I'm putting this in the chat. There we go. So you can kind of see how that compares to the one that we see in the show.
Father, can I ask you to pull it up on your scanner? Because
that's right, you can't.
Don't. My eyes can't do.
I'm like, why are you? It's like, oh, that's right.
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Okay, cool. Here we go. There.
I feel like they did a really good job of taking the one that's a little bit strange in TOS or TAS and making it feel a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of
it looks great.
Bug-like. Yeah.
Yeah. This has got to be like much bigger than the one that.
Oh yeah.
Kirk and Spock encounter here.
That looks very crabby to me.
Yeah.
Crabby.
It kind of the one from the 2270s actually looks a little crabby too, or insect at least.
Right.
It's funny. This is not great if you're listening to this audio, but the front plate of the ship, kind of has a little bit of the Bajoran door kind of feel to it.
Oh yeah, it
It's got
does.
kind of like this texturing on it is like very Bajoran. Like not the doors, but on the the doors of the
Like that front part, yeah.
yeah, the front part of the what is it? The things that holds the what do they call it? The orb? An orb.
The
That's what
orb,
it is.
yeah.
An orb. I'm like, why? It's Saturday morning.
It's it's okay. We can be a little slow. Speaking of slow, because my avatar wearing these goggles and all that stuff, I think makes me slower. But I just want to say, we're coming up to the hour, so let's get into our final thoughts. And if they're any different from your opening thoughts, I'll just say it was fun talking about this episode. I learned a lot about, the Orions and stuff like that. So to me, yeah, this is a highlight, a really good start to their second season. It's a shame there's only 6 episodes in season 2, but they're. I hope they're all just as good.
Yeah, no, this episode was a lot of fun. I feel like I learned a lot more about Orions than I wanted to in this episode, but that's what you get when you walk into a virtual bar full of lovely Star Trek fans such as yourself. But it was a lot of fun to be here.
Thanks. Any other final thoughts, Aaron or Father? And also, don't forget to promote, guys. Anything you want the audience to tune into that you guys are doing.
Sure.
I-
Go ahead, Aaron.
No, go ahead, Father. Go ahead.
We'll save Aaron for last.
when I'm not trying to I don't know, diplomatically outwit an Orion so I can get drugs to save my friends and shipmates.
What does he say? What do these drugs? How much would these? What was he saying? Like, it's
what
so
are these worth?
What
to
are
you?
these drugs worth to you? It's like so good.
If we did have them, I'm not saying that we did jack your drugs, but if we were to have them, what would it be worth to? Like, would it have to be worth like that amount of dilithium we're also trying to get our hands on? But yeah, when I'm not dealing with Orion piracy shenanigans, I am talking about Star Trek live on Text Trek Fridays at 7 p.m. We just recently, without any new Star Trek to talk about, we've been covering some Star Trek adjacent media. So we covered the USS Callister episode of Black Mirror 1 week ago. Then yesterday we did Galaxy Quest. So that's been fun. Next week we're talking to Doug Drexler, who's worked on a ton of Star Trek, going all the way back to really the 70s. If you look at his fan contributions, but we're gonna mainly talk to him about Star Trek Enterprise and designing the NX-01 and being so involved with that ship, but also some of his other work in Trek, including recent stuff on Star Trek Picard last year. And I'll be on the Trek cruise the week after that, so we're taking the week off. Although we might have some type of I don't know, we might say hi from Florida if I can.
Oh, it's already Trek cruise time, is it? Geesh. Like, where does the time go?
If I can get in a room with Sohel and Ruben, we might have to say hi to the
we definitely will.
Audiences. But yeah, then later in the year, of course, Discovery we now know comes April 4th. So we'll be covering Discovery every week, as well as Prodigy whenever it drops, and at some point in the year we'll get more Lower Decks, and probably a Section 31 movie.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be a lot of trekking this year.
Yeah, even without Strange New Worlds and Picard, we still have plenty going on this year.
No, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Take us out, Aaron.
When I'm not trying to elicit a smile from Captain O'Shea, no. February 28th, the comic book cover of the Star Trek Picard Academy comes out that I did, which is cover B, and it's the kind of a WPA travel poster of San Francisco in the future. I recently worked on an illustration for Star Trek Explorer for their digital edition, and there's going to be another one coming out whenever the next digital edition is. I don't know when that is. TAS related. And I just recorded with Sean Farrick an episode about Kazinti for Drawn to Trek, and I just have to edit it. So we're trying to get that back on track.
Very cool.
We've got somebody. Have you ever seen the podcast? It's Probably Not Aliens. There's Tristan, one of their co-hosts, he's going to come on and talk about how the ancient astronaut theory and connecting it to How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth, and how like the 1970s had the weird von Daniken, it's got racism into it too, so it's just a really interesting deep topic. But I think that was a good jumping off point. So
That's pretty
and
cool.
you can always get my book anywhere.
Yes. And it's a new printing of it, so
it's the
cool,
50th anniversary edition.
Yeah. This cool little 50th anniversary thing on the front of it. Didn't have before.
Yeah, and guys, don't get it mixed up with the very short treks.
Buy both
that was
copies
weird.
of the book. Find the old one without the little label, and then find a new one that has it. And then you can have,
I suppose in theory it would be worth
you'll
more.
have both.
Yeah, exactly.
Whichever one has the fewer copies is going to be the big collector's item. So make sure that you buy both, and that way your future's safe. Your what do you call that? Future proofed.
You're future-proofed, exactly. It's true.
Instead of worth $30, it'll be worth $32.
Yeah.
But no, so that's gonna be kind of fun. And real quick, related to Doug Drexler, he looked at the Bonaventure when he was designing the NX originally, like way back, like the one version that they didn't use of his. So I thought it was kind of cool that he actually reference TAS.
That's cool.
That is very cool. Marcelo, I don't think you had a chance to promote your stuff.
Oh,
so if
no,
you
yeah.
real quick.
Yeah, I have a podcast on YouTube. It's called the Mixtape Podcast, where I talk about film from a screenplay writer's perspective. So if you want to hear me rattle on about film from a writer's perspective exclusively, and few and far between, you're welcome to subscribe over there. Also, I have a personal YouTube channel, Balloon Hit Productions, where right now I'm doing watch-alongs for my favorite TV show of all time, Dawson's Creek, and my third favorite TV show of all time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But I do Mission Impossible reviews, some Star Trek reviews in there, and so come over there and find me. But all these links to all this stuff is available on X or Twitter. I'm at CreekFanatic88.
Thank you so much. So we'll be back next week to do BEM, which that's like another nice follow-up in Lower Decks that we got with that.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool.
With
So
Shuri Beam Bam or whatever. His name is.
Oh, I love that. That was every time she said it, the name was different.
Ari Ben Bem might be my least favorite character in all of Star Trek. I hate that asshole.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about that next week. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for putting up with my creepy Apple persona throughout the thing. I think you guys got used to. I got used to it, which is kind of creepy in and of
I did
itself.
get used to it. I totally
it's
forgot.
kinda weird.
It's like I just accepted. I'm talking to the real Sohel.
No, don't get used to it. All right, well, live long and prosper. Oh, I wonder if I can. What?
Oh.
I can
Ghost
totally do
hand.
it. That's so crazy. All right, live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.